Good morning, brothers and sisters. Here is your end of September of 2022 prophecy update, courtesy of RaptureReady.com. On September 20th, it was reported that with more than 3 months to go, Biden has welcomed more than 2 million illegal aliens into the U.S. this year. He seems to have a double agenda: weaken America and surrender its sovereignty to the New World Order. Biden's Build Back Better agenda: increase the Hispanic population of America by many millions of people to promote the merger of the U.S., Mexico, and Canada. Concerning hyperinflation and the coming economic collapse during the tribulation period, on September 21st, the head of the U.S. Federal Reserve warned that inflation is still too high. Interest rates will keep rising and a recession is likely on the way. Concerning a 7-year covenant of peace and safety, the division of Israel and the Battle of Armageddon, on September 22nd, Israel's interim Prime Minister Lapid told the UN General Assembly he endorses the two-state solution. Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau tweeted, "Israelis and Palestinians living in peace, security, and dignity is in everyone's best interest." Biden welcomed and agreed with Lapid's statement. Lapid just didn't ignore the scriptures. He defied God and endangered Israel, encouraged Israel's enemies to push harder for a worthless covenant of peace, and may have moved the world closer to the Battle of Armageddon. Concerning hyperinflation, a global economic collapse and famine, the global energy crisis has the EU economy in shambles. Most EU banks, businesses, industry, farmers may survive this winter by curbing their activities, but some are already on the brink of collapse, and the longer this problem drags on, the worse the situation will get. Tens of thousands of citizens are likely to die this winter. A large fertilizer company, BASF in Germany, is threatening to shut down over insufficient gas supplies. Without enough fertilizer, food production will drop. Farmers are threatening to shut down because of a high fertilizer and fuel costs. Germany has a lot of stored up natural gas, but this is rapidly being depleted and will run out in a matter of weeks. This EU crisis will impact the entire world. If this crisis keeps dragging on, the world will keep moving closer to the prophecies in Revelation 6, and the cries for a world government to solve the problem will grow loud and hard to ignore. No one knows, but the rapture or this crisis could trigger a world government before 2030. Globalists think they are in control, but they are not. God's word will be fulfilled whether this crisis is a globalist plot or the judgment of God. Major global problems and changes are on the horizon. On September 26, a very large underwater leak was reported in the Baltic Sea on Russia's Nord Stream gas pipeline to Europe. Seismologists in Denmark and Sweden reported powerful explosions that appeared to be explosions, not earthquakes, near where the leak occurred. The next day, on September 27th, 2 more very large underwater leaks were reported in the Baltic Sea on Russia's Nord Stream 1 gas pipeline. This appears to be a disaster for Europe, Russia, and the whole world. For Europe, because there is no hope of resuming the flow of gas through the pipeline from Russia to Europe anytime soon. The price of gas is now surging. For Russia, because Russia wanted to cut a deal with Europe to resume the flow of gas in exchange for European concessions on Ukraine, but Russia has lost their bargaining chip, and concessions are now out of the question. For the whole world, because the global energy shortage has gotten worse. The price of gas has already started climbing, and it will be harder to bring inflation under control. This appears to be an advantage for Israel. Israel's gas is now more valuable and needed more than ever. Europe is more dependent on Israel than ever. Putin is angry and threatening revenge. Keep an eye on this, because it could lead to the hook in Gog's jaw. Concerning a digital currency, on September 27th, the Rare Foundation reported on an interview of a well-known German economist, journalist, and author named Ernest Wolf. According to Wolf, under the Great Reset, the World Economic Forum is planning to cause big trouble for middle-class businesses and people with assets. The goal is to create panic and call a new economic system. A person's bank account will be like an app on their cell phone. The Federal Reserve Bank carrying one's account can withdraw taxes from that account, charge interest for keeping the account, penalize people for some of their purchases, and require people to spend their money or lose it. Concerning the ashes of a red heifer, on September 27th, it was reported that a plot of land that meets the requirements for an animal sacrifice has been purchased on the Mount of Olives. A qualified red heifer could be sacrificed on the Mount of Olives as soon as 13 months from now. It doesn't mean the temple will be built then, but it does mean the rabbis could have the ashes of a red heifer by then. At this point, the 5 red heifers that were moved from Texas to Israel are out of quarantine and they still meet the requirements for sacrifice. According to Brian Stinson, the Christian rancher that raised the red heifers in Texas, Christians can support the sacrifice and rebuilding of the temple because the blinding of the Jews will cease when the Antichrist defiles the temple, and all Israel will hear the gospel and get saved. Finally, are you rapture ready?